Okay, I loaded up a new challenge save file where I banned all cross paths that do damage and only left me some support. We immediately start with the dart in order to accrue all the pops in this game with it. I start with a camo upgrade because camos come out immediately, and then I have to save up for an alchemist in order to pop the leads since they come out very, very early. On top of that, this game mode was done using no monkey knowledge, and it's alternating balloons rounds. On top of that, I also ended up using co-op starting cash, so I have 12,000 cash to start with. Sorry, my bad, 1,200 cash to start with. After I pop the leads, I immediately sell the alch to make sure that none of the pops are stolen, and we go back to saving up. I think we're now going for Geraldo. I then buy Geraldo behind the top log in a place where he shouldn't steal any pops from anything, even bads. I picked Geraldo for a couple of reasons. He has the NFT, which makes a lot of money, and he also has very useful items like Jar of Pickles for +1 damage, Sharpening Stones for +1 pierce, and Jerry's Fire to overall increase the DPS of my Dartling Gunner. I lost there to a regen green, so I restarted and used targeting in order to actually pop everything. I then decide to jar pickles since I realize I am lacking a lot of DPS and therefore lost that round. So I restart and immediately start with the jar of pickles. And I still lose, so I now need to do the same thing but with a bit of micro. I also add a glue in order to slow down some of the stronger balloons. Unlike the last challenge, this one has a very, very, very hard early game, but very, very easy late game. I also can't upgrade to Laser Shock until very, very late in this game because I can't pop purples. And the only way to pop purples after Laser Shock is to get an MIB, which costs over $8,000. And I am currently struggling to pop the regular rounds. Now here finally on round 20 I decide to jar pickles in order to increase my DPS. And it really makes the game a lot easier after that. But this round, leads come, and they're the bane of my existence because I need to pop all of them, which I use using an acidic mixture dip alchemist, but I also can't let the acidic mixture dip alchemist get a single pop. So to beat this round, I sell the NFT and buy a glue to slow down the leads and an alchemist to pop the leads. After that, I sell the alchemist and re-buy the alchemist once all the balloons have passed where he is. Then I immediately sell the alchemist, which is a huge mistake because the round immediately after has a camo lead balloon. The worst part is that I did not have enough money to repurchase the acidic mixture dip alchemist. So I need to sell Geraldo, which loses me a ton of levels on him. Immediately after, I sell the alchemist and buy back Geraldo, since I'll need levels for him very quickly because it is very, very, very hard to play this game without having Jerry's fire, since that is where most of our mid-game DPS is going to come from. After I get him back, I then proceed to sit on all of my money. And I then struggle to round 27, which I fail a few times, before eventually getting a glue and adding a camo potion from Geraldo's shop to him in order to slow down some of those really fast, pesky yellow camo balloons. I also get back my alchemist because I know eventually I'm going to need acidic mixture dip in order to pop leads. And because this is a camo round, the alchemist is guaranteed not to pop any of them. After that, we encounter regen lead balloons, which are the bane of my existence and probably took most of my time on this run because I can't sell the alchemist because I don't have enough DPS and the lead balloons will just regen to their lead layers, which my Dartling can't pop. So in order to get past this, I needed to glue every last lead balloon and then hit it with acidic mixture dip and then make sure I have enough DPS that none of them regen into lead balloons. Okay, I got really lucky this round, and because the alchemist's damage is a DOT effect, I was able to pop all the balloons before the DOT effect came into effect and was able to finish that round with the alchemist getting 0 pops. This next round is really tricky because of all of these regen pink balloons, which are surprisingly really tough. I tried saving my alch there because I was saving up for an alch buff, but that was just nowhere in question. And I couldn't let the alchemist take any pops away, so I sold it and got back my glue. And then immediately followed it up with another round of leads. But this round is camo, so no worry about the alchemist taking any pops away. So this round was actually easier than the rest. The next round, I definitely did not have enough DPS to clear, but by that point, Geraldo had leveled up his shop and now giving the sharpening stone. Due to the fact that the Darkling only has 1 pierce, this effectively doubles his pierce, giving me pretty much double the DPS on all of these extremely dense rounds, and gives me a ton of popping power that I need for this early game. It allows me to greed so much that I'm able to get a farm, which I'll get in a few minutes after this. I get back the jar of pickles in order to increase my DPS. All of these rounds do still require a bit of micro and retries in order to beat, because there is just a ton of DPS needed to be dealt in RBR. A.B.R, my bad, not RBR. Don't even know what that stands for. I think I didn't buy a farm here because I was saving up for Geraldo's NFT, which I really wasn't that far off of from affording. But unfortunately, leads come to ruin the day once again, and I need to get an alchemist. But this time, I get an alch buff, which is really good because it gives extra pierce and damage, which absolutely shreds through those leads way before they get them. And I proceed to greed for an alch buff for as long as possible, making sure that nothing gets in that little corner so my alchemist can steal 0 pops. But unfortunately he does, and I now need to lose this round to retry. I realize I'm probably going to need to sell him in order to retry, in order to beat the next couple of rounds. None of this commentary is live, you should know that. Since I'm a mobile player, I wasn't able to get any live commentary. And this is extremely hard without any of those quality of life mods like time machines or faster forwarding or anything like that. No hotkeys, so no insane ability micro, and slightly worse processing power than a computer. But basically, anything is still achievable in mobile. Even a number 1 rank in boss events or racing events. It's just going to be way harder than you think. And actually, I didn't sell the alchemist. Instead, I used 2 creepy totems in order to push back the balloons and make sure that they don't get to the alchemist. But on round 40, the Moab is gonna just go straight to the alchemist, and I need to sell him before that happens. After that, I am just waiting for Geraldo to level up to get Jerry's fire, because as you see, I am highly struggling now. Although my greed did pay off and I was able to get the NFT, but that will only stick around for 1 or 2 rounds. And see, there we go. I just realized I did not have enough DPS, and I proceeded to spend money on upgrading Geraldo and got that Jerry fire. Really, if I would have been smarter at the beginning of the game and optimized and not sold my alchemist and not sold Geraldo, I would have had Jerry's fire probably a couple rounds earlier and did not need to spend any money on it. But once we get Jerry's fire, it's pretty much easy walkings. I just need a bit of stalling in order to increase my DPS, but after that I could go into farming and save up for all of the most important upgrades, which will be MIB and some Moab glue stalling. Since Ray of Doom is very expensive, $80,000, I am going to need to get on with my farming game. But because it's A.B.R, it is very hard to greed when all your money is going into DPS. But now I should have a very easy next couple of rounds, to the point where I get super lazy and just lock my Dartling and don't even bother microing or anything. I should have plenty of DPS through my Jerry's hot sauce. It does mean that every once in a while I will need to retry the round, but with enough little micro everything should be very easy. I'm saving up for Moab glue next because the only issues are these Moabs. But this round in particular, 47 had 3 Moabs, and I just did not have the DPS at the time to leave it unlocked targeting. So this time, I need to actually retry a few times in order to micro and pop all 3 Moabs in time for my glue to actually glue them, since that is pretty much the only way I can deal with the ceramics. And without Jerry's fire, it would be impossible to beat the ceramics that come out of these Moabs. But after many attempts of Jerry's fighter, I cave in and get a creepy idol in order to blow back just a few of the cerams, and that gives me enough time to beat this round. Now I try to greed for the MIB, because as soon as I get the MIB, I can upgrade to Laser Shock, which will give me the next very big DPS spike. But because it's so expensive, it is back to farming. And every few rounds, because I'm not microing, I will need to actually restart. But at this point, I buy Laser Shock because I'm pretty sure between selling my farm and my glue gunner, I should be able to afford MIB if there are any purples. I haven't memorized the A.B.R round sets, so I don't actually know when the purples will appear. But after that, this will give me a very big DPS spike, and I should be able to deal with the rounds a lot easier. I still need to use Jerry's item shops. I no longer have sharpening stones, but that's pretty fine because Laser Cannon has a lot more pierce than the Dartling's 1 pierce. And now it's just replaying rounds until I get the Moab Glue and Alchemist to help defend. Since I realized that what was making me lose this round were the leads, so I get an Alchemist just to pop the leads, and then proceed to sell it before any balloons get in range. And after that, this round becomes very easily, because Laser Shock and Jerry's fire. Now I get Moab Glue because Moabs are really the only problem, and help stalling them will help tremendously with my DPS. The problem with A.B.R, like I said before, is there's a very hard balance between farming and dealing damage, because you need to deal a lot of extra damage, which costs a lot of extra money, but usually you get the extra money from farming, so it's very hard to strike the balance between the two. But now that I get a second farm, I know I can sell just my farms in order to buy a MIB for my Laser Shock, so I am not worried about purples at all. I am now just going back to farming because I need as much money as possible, because I'm pretty much going to need Ray of Doom by round 80. And this is the round where purples come, and I just bought a farm upgrade, so instead I wait for it to restart and then sell those 2 in order to get a MIB, making sure I never have to worry about purples ever again. Now I can go back to farming because of that, and there shouldn't be any issue with any DPS until much later. So I can go back to farming with my nice little setup. And unlike the last A.B.R. All Pops Chimps, which I did with Pirate Lord, this one had the exact opposite issue. That one had a very, very, very easy early game that had me restarting almost 0 times. The hardest part of that All Pops was the last round, where I ended up spending 30 minutes on a single round. But ultimately, this one was a bit easier in my opinion, because once you got past the first few rounds, which you needed to figure out and micro, it was pretty much a cakewalk. But this run did take a lot longer. My original run only took 1 hour with the Pirate Lord, but this Ray of Doom All Pops A.B.R. run ended up taking me 1 hour and 20 minutes to 1 hour and 30 minutes. So this one might some people consider harder because I ended up spending way more time optimizing things in the early game. But honestly, this one was very easy. So you could try this yourself and it shouldn't be too hard. Just hopefully you won't suffer as much as I do in the early game. And shout out to that one person who actually beat my challenge of All Pops A.B.R. with the Pirate Lord. And currently the only one to ever do that. You could find it in the challenge editor under All Pops Alternating Balloons rounds if you want to try. And this one is also a challenge, so if you want, you could. This one should also be under the title All Pops A.B.R. Chimp. My bad, not chimps. All Pops A.B.R. I think I actually named it Alternating Balloons Rounds, not A.B.R. So you'll have to type in All Pops Alternating Balloons Rounds to find the challenge, not All Pops A.B.R. But now I realize that I'm running Geraldo, and I could increase the amount of money my farms were making, so I gave them the fertilizer in order to increase their income. Also, at this point, I had enough money, and I decided to basically max out my DPS for now by getting Plasma Accelerator and Relentless Glue, and this should give me enough time to start greeting. So I create 3 farms, and then I realize that I'm losing a lot of money by not going bottom path farm, because in alternating balloons rounds, extra balloons spawn, which gives extra money, and that could be multiplied by getting a bottom path village. So I tried to go for that as quickly as possible. I was thinking about triple discounting it, but I decided against it. But I still got 1 farm in order to increase its range and discount the price of it, because it is extremely expensive, being over $9,000. I realized that also it wouldn't be in range, so I cross-pathed it with the top path. Not only that, where I placed it, it would also be buffing all of the farms, so they would also be making more money. And because I went bottom path farms, I don't actually need to collect the bananas, so I didn't bother locking my Dartling in place, and that way, if I wanted to end a round early, I can just move my cursor, my finger, to wherever the balloon would be. There we go, I finally upgraded the village, but sadly, even with the cross path, it didn't reach, so I needed another 3.2k in order to upgrade the farm, so it actually reaches my Dartling, which made me really sad because I lost out a lot of money popping all of those fortified Moabs at the end of this round. But after that, I should be able to purchase it and now make a ton of money due to the fact that A.B.R. has extra balloons so you make even more money than the regular rounds. But now it should be smooth sailing, and I should be able to get all these farms. And I only get one more thing before the Ray of Doom. I get a middle path glue gunner in order to increase my DPS on some of those few rounds where I feel like I'm short of some DPS. It isn't a lot, considering that I have Plasma Accelerator, and it does a lot of damage actually, but it still helps. It also helps stall balloons that make it towards the end of the track, so that helps. But basically after that, it's some more farming, because I am not going to have enough DPS come late game. So I'm going to keep my defense as long as possible. As soon as I no longer have enough DPS late game, I'm going to sell everything and buy Ray of Doom. But as soon as I buy Ray of Doom, I will basically have beaten all 140 rounds. As Ray of Doom recently got a buff in the last couple of updates, where its first target bonus damage got increased drastically, which really made this easy, because I basically was able to out DPS any bad easily, and was able to get my farming back to a very decent point, and basically max out on all the support I wanted, and was able to pop every last balloon. round I struggled to in the late game was round 140, which I ended up using a little bit of micro in order to beat easily. First try, no restarts or anything. And sadly, I don't know when, my engineer, and Geraldo, ended up getting a couple of pops. But no pops, just a touch of damage, which really doesn't do anything. Most people would consider this an all pops run, but I guess some of you purists might not call this an all pops. Same thing happened in my last run with the Pirate Lord. I was not quick enough and did not sell the engineer in time, and he ended up getting 4 pops on the bad. But that definitely did not affect anything in the game. I had no issues with popping any of the balloons, and it definitely did not help in any way. So I still considered it an all pops on that single tower, despite the fact that Geraldo ended up stealing 33 pops, and the engineer ended up stealing 14 pops. And that is it. And yeah, have fun. Try the challenge yourself if you want.